You're listening to We Deepen Media.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder and CEO of We Deepen, Feminine Weapon, and also a certified professional coach and matchmaker. If you haven't lately, go to wedeepen.com and see all the upcoming social and transformational experiences that I have handpicked for us to go and journey together through these experiences with the intention of supporting you and having an epic love life. All of the experiences are ones who are attended by growth-minded individuals. They are facilitated by some of my favorite people in the world. Some of those experiences you'll see are retreats and conferences and festivals, and others are more intimate workshops like Tantra Speed Date. Tantra Speed Date is happening everywhere across the United States right now, even Amsterdam, Canada. Check it out if you haven't been to a Tantra Speed Date. I highly recommend. We're going to get into the topic of dating today. And, one of the reasons why is because the Wonderland Conference is coming up. This is November 9th through the 11th. It's they call it the world's premier event for psychedelic medicine, mental health, and longevity. And it's exciting because they have invited the Dating Dojo to be part of the experience. I'll be co-facilitating the Dating Dojo with Ken Page of the Deeper Dating podcast, Deeper Dating Intensive, Deeper Dating book. He is one of my mentors when it comes to love. I go to him all the time when I have relationship advice, when I need relationship advice. So Ken is going to be there with me in Miami for the Wonderland Conference. And one of my mentors a while back had said to me, if you are currently single and you would like to be in a relationship, consider where the person that you would date would go and go to those places. And if you are interested in somebody who wants to live a long, healthy life, why not join us at the Wonderland Conference? And I'm so excited to see this trend of big conferences like that. There's going to be 3,000 to 4,000 people are opening up the event, or I guess of realizing that their attendees want to meet and they want to formulate deep connections with one another. And rather than swiping on a dating app, why not provide the container for guests to connect with each other in fun and meaningful ways? So Ken Page, who is back on the podcast today, and we're back together again, doing the Dating Dojo, is here. Hi, Ken. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, so glad to be here. Hi, Christina.
So I know this is going to be a short episode, so I'm going to just jump right in rather than inviting you all to rate, follow, subscribe. You can do that to this podcast. But I really want to dive into this conversation with you and talk about modern dating. I know this is you are one of the go-to sources, worldwide for anybody who wants to elevate their intimacy journey and kind of get out of that funk. I know we all have this deep longing, or most people, I don't want to say all because that's a big absolute statement, but a lot of people have this desire to be in a thriving partnership, a healthy relationship. And it's not something that most of us saw growing up. Our educational curriculums don't really support. You don't go to school to have a healthy relationship. You go to school to provide a living for yourself. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into what you're seeing in the challenges that people are having while they're dating, and what solutions that you see are available for them.
Sure. Those are all true and really kind of big and important questions. Just a while back, I sent out an email to my whole list and I said, tell me where you get the most stuck. I would like everyone who would want to answer, tell me where you get the most stuck. And I actually did this kind of big thing where all these people responded, and I sent back about over 100 people responded, and I sent like personal voice messages to every single one of them. It was like a big job, but it was a joy because it was like a real chance to work with people and also really hear what was going on with the landscape. And one person coined a phrase that I would say kind of really captures maybe the worst pain point. She called it discouragement fatigue. That was her expression. And it's the, like, and we come upon it, single people come upon that in so many ways. One, relationships, dating relationships not working. And then you have to experience the disappointment of that and then get out there again. Long-term relationships not working. And then you have to experience the grief and the heartbreak around that and then get out there again. The culture of unkindness in so much of the dating world. And then you have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And then, you've got this very precious longing for a wonderful relationship. And again, you're just buffeted about by swipe apps, by unkindness, by disappointment. That happens in so many levels. And even for people who are doing the growth work, and that's something I believe in so deeply. And, of course, we'll talk about that too. But part of the hope message here is that the degree to which you up-level the way you search for love is really the degree to which you're going to up-level the kind of person you're going to meet and your chance for a really good relationship. So even with that, though, there's this thing that happens where so you up-level the way you date, you bring consciousness, you bring awareness into it through the work that you do, Christina, the work that I do. People really, commit to doing that and they notice shifts. They actually start noticing shifts and then they meet someone and it seems like it might be different. And then it ends up being the same, but it's worse this time because their hopes were higher because this person seemed different. These are what I call stepping stone relationships. And that's like another aspect of discouragement fatigue that people experience. So here's the question. You meet someone wonderful, wonderful, things start growing. You're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. How do you find the light in the middle of the tunnel? What do you do? And that's something I've just spent a lot of time thinking of and working on. So I do have thoughts on what to do about that. But I would say that discouragement fatigue is a really painful thing that people experience. And since I'm going with it, I will say the other. This is, I believe, the worst saboteur of healthy new love that exists in the world. And it is what I call the wave of distancing. And it's this. If you're used to dating people who are not really available, not really kind of able to meet your needs, not able to commit, sort of they are, but not really. That's what you get used to. Then when you meet someone who's really present and really available, all of a sudden you notice their nose hair. You notice that their laugh irritates you. You notice that your sexual desire diminishes. All of those things then happen in the presence of true availability. That's called the wave of distancing, and nobody's taught to deal with it. And in my experience, between 1/3 and a half of all people who date suffer from that. So those are the two things I'm going to mention as maybe the biggest issues that people face.
Wow. Both of them. Yes. Because number one, the discouragement fatigue, I can relate to that. I've spent a lot of time dating and I've had short relationships and I do, I think because I've made this my life's work, I have found light within side of the tunnel. But they tell us out in the world, if you read this book, read Calling in the One, take this program, you're going to meet him. Just do this one thing. And so us who are, growth junkies, we're okay. And then you get to a place and you're I'm perfect the way I am. This is my evolutionary journey. And the idea that some people come into your sphere for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and that some of us this lifetime may not get into a significantly long relationship might not be our way for evolution. That's how I've looked at it. And so not looking at these smaller relationships as failures.
Right.
So that's the thing. And I'd love to even maybe unpack that further. Like, is everybody here? Do you believe everybody is meant to find a healthy long-term relationship?
Here's what I would say. I think a lot of people don't necessarily want that, but here's what I think. I think everybody who does should do whatever they can to try to find it and believe that it is possible. No matter what your age, no matter what your situation. I have met people who are in their 90s. I know people who are profoundly disabled. I know people with life-threatening conditions, serious ones, who fall in love with someone wonderful almost because of the crisis of those things. And something I've seen and I believe is that no matter what, like, someone might be able to find a relationship really easily, and another person does all this growth work. They've evolved so much. They're still not finding their relationship. But the question still is the same. What are my intimacy lessons now? And no matter how much growth you've done, that's a really rich question. So somebody might have done a ton of work and not find a relationship. And then all of a sudden they have an opening where they realize that a core gift of theirs, a deeply intimate part of themselves, they haven't been sharing. They realize that. They open that part of themselves up, and then things profoundly change. I've seen that happen a lot. So I think if you want a long-term relationship, hope and believe that you can get one. And I think if you do the work, you probably can. The people who don't necessarily want that, that's one thing. The people who do, believe in it, go for it. Will it definitely happen? Who the heck knows? Who knows if we're going to get hit by a truck or whatever? But what I have seen is that, like, in my intensives, which last 6 months, small groups of people doing very deep work on the deeper dating curriculum, which I teach, which is based on the naming and the honoring of your core gifts. There's just huge amounts of growth. Many people end up in relationships. Some people go back with previous partners. Some people leave their current partners. To me, the only question is, are you growing? Are you learning your lessons of intimacy? Are they opening your heart? Are they opening your capacity for discrimination? If the answers to those things are yes, that's where you find light in the middle of the tunnel, because things keep changing. Because when you do that work, your field shifts. When your field shifts, you magnetize changes. So here's what I would say to every one of you. In your dating life, are you finding that you are becoming more self-treasuring, more vulnerable, and more discriminating? If the answers to those questions are yes, you are on the right path, and work it for all it's worth. If the answer to any of those is not yet a yes, work on that. And then the other piece I would say is, if you have any kind of addiction, work on that, because until you do, you're going to tread the same ground again and again and again. If you have any serious unstabilized psychiatric conditions, and I don't mean some depression, some anxiety, but I mean serious unstabilized psychiatric conditions, work on those, get help, get those stabilized. Because no matter how much work you do, until you do that, you're going to kind of like repeat the same pattern. So those are just some kind of broad and general things that I want to say. There is always hope if you're doing your beautiful work.
And when I talk to you, I get this, like my eyes get a little teary when I hear you speak, because you are such a pure soul and so knowledgeable about this subject matter. That is,
That's so kind.
I think, the most important work that there is. And for that piece of, your intimacy journey and growing with inside of that. I was one in the past who I have been in relationships where I've been fearful of asking questions. We don't necessarily we think vulnerability and authenticity is like being yourself moment by moment. But sometimes that is of like asking the questions that you may be too scared to ask. And I've had previous relationships where I didn't ask those questions. And I will say in a relationship that I recently had, you and I had gotten on the phone and you had said, Christina, ask him this question. And I remember getting off the phone with him and being like, I don't want to. I just don't want to. And he came over. Yeah. He came over that night, and I remember before he left, and I was like, it was just nagging in me, like, Ken says I got to ask this question, and I didn't want to do it. And then I did, and it didn't even matter what came after that. There was this relief that I experienced from overcoming what I was uncomfortable, what I was fearful of doing. And it did that question, although it didn't necessarily, it opened up our conversation and our relationship to be more true and real in that moment. And so I am like hands down of what you're saying is like, I'm a representation of that, of like, when you move through the things that are uncomfortable, you actually feel more alive and connected to yourself. Because also in dating, it's, the feelings can come up of like rejection and abandonment, but the true feeling of abandonment I've found is when I abandon myself. And so thank you for that. How does one?
I love if I could just say something about what you said, that was like everything. That was so much. And I would like to just take a minute and unpack a few parts of that, because that was so rich. The first part, I guess the biggest piece is that the things we're most afraid to share and most afraid to ask for not only are often the most important things, they are our deepest core gifts. What you asked for was connected to your deepest and most precious self. And so the things that we're most insecure around are where our greatest gifts lie. And as long as we don't embrace those things and lead with them and champion them, whatever they are, it's like our dating life is going to be like standing on a wobbly ladder. And when we can do what you did, which was honor and treasure what's deep, deep inside, and make the big asks, make the real asks. When we do that, it's a shift. It's the difference between like creatures that don't have a spine need armor. They need an exoskeleton. But you moved into your spine. You moved into your truth. You moved past your fear and you stood in your spine, and it became your central organizer. And all of a sudden you were okay, no matter what he would say. And that is the wiser search for love. This is like a tale that you told that captures the deepest, richest story of the parts of ourselves that we leave behind in order to get love or approval are the parts of ourselves we need to champion and reclaim in order to really find healthy love. How amazing the world is built that way, and how magical and how scary and how brave, which is why the work that you and I are both doing, which is giving people support in these scary steps, is like, so essential.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking as you were speaking, like, thank goodness, you and I had that phone call right before, I was to see this person. And it speaks to how when you have people in your life who are really cheerleading for you to have what you desire in love and willing to support that. I mean, that's essentially what a wedding is intended to be, is that two humans stand in front of a community and say, hey, this is really important to us. We're, making this commitment in front of you and asking you to witness our commitment. And we want you to be allies in this with us and support us in staying together. So what you did for me, and oftentimes, when we don't necessarily build support groups for a love life as single people. And that's what your work does. And that's, yes, what the Love Club now has launched is doing as well. And even going to experiences like the Dating Dojo is super supportive. Now, the next question I do want to ask is that you mentioned that some people, they don't want long-term relationships. How does one know if that's real? Because we have fear-based desires and conscious-based desires. Sometimes that I don't want to be in a long-term relationship could potentially be a coping mechanism for somebody.
Good point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do we decipher between what's real and not?
Yeah, that's like such a rich question. And, these are that question. Like, okay, let's say there's somebody who says, I don't want a long-term relationship that's going to be forever. If I meet someone and I love them and I'm with them for a few months and, our life goes in different directions, that kind of works better for me. Or I can, I don't see myself like living with someone and having a whole future together. That's not me. That's not me. That would take away my freedom. Let's say, for example, somebody might feel that way. And that's true for them. Well, they need to honor that truth. They need to honor that truth. But there is a question too, which is, are they pushing love away? Are they frightened of love? So that person enters into a relationship with someone. Then they have a whole series of questions like, am I using that concept that I don't want this, but it doesn't fit because in my heart, I do want it with this person? Or does it feel true that with this person, I don't want it? There's like this very step-by-step process, but I think Marianne Williamson says it really, really well. She says, both feet in until both feet out. So you're in a relationship and you're not sure. And if you are used to relationships with unavailable people and you're in a relationship with someone who's truly available, you probably won't be sure. You will be afraid. You will be nervous. You'll want to escape. You'll want to run away. You'll start noticing other people being more attractive. Like all that stuff's going to happen, but it passes if you let the love deepen and it's the right person. Because on some level, it does become a choice. You got to be attracted to the person. This is the big question I say is like, does my soul feel safe with this person? Frame your entire search for love around that question and watch what changes. Yeah, you got to be attracted, but make that your number one question. Does my soul truly feel safe? That's the path to happiness. That's the path to happiness, because when you find someone with whom your soul feels deeply safe and they're present and they're available and there's mutual love and mutual attraction, that's like the happiness you could glide on almost forever. And that's what we want. So we keep asking ourselves the questions. Am I running away? Am I opening up? Am I saying my asks? Am I sharing my soul? Am I inviting the same from the other person? In sex, am I saying who I really am, sharing what I really love? If you're doing all those things, the answer in time will get clearer, but have support. And I just think it's so synchronistic that, at the same time, you have created this amazing, amazing concept called the Love Club, where people get to work together in teams and in communities. They learn, they grow, and they actually support each other in finding partners and networking around that. And at the very same time, I'm offering the 19th cohort of my Deeper Dating Intensive, which is a 6-month journey for this very small group of people where they become this deep, deep, deep community of support doing this deep, rich, deeper dating work. Like both of us at the same time are doing this. And I just think that, like, I love how we meet from our different perspectives, but also so similar as we kind of create things for the world. I just think it's really cool. Our podcasts, the Dating Dojo, which you created and you invited me to, and I'm going to be doing the second one with you in Florida, as well as a workshop on the deeper dating material, core gifts. And, but you got me into all of those things. You invited me to all those things, which, I'm not remembering the word, but you're someone who just, like, you're a conductor and you create all of these ways for people to connect in the world. And, it's what I adore about you.
How fitting. Deeper dating and we deepen. It was just synchronicity.
That's right. But I mean, I want to acknowledge in this, like, this heartfelt awareness that you and I have, that all of us need help in learning and in connecting and in creating communities to do this. David Brooks said it, from the New York Times, said it really well. He said, if you have a great job in a shitty relationship, you'll probably be miserable. And if you have a crappy job, but a great relationship, you still really have a shot of being happy. So everyone from early on needs to learn the skills of finding a healthy relationship. So you and I both believe in that. And I'll say that if people are interested in the Deeper Dating Intensive, you can just go to deeperdatingintensive.com to learn more and have a 45-minute exploratory session with me if it feels right for you. So that's what I'll say about the Deeper Dating Intensive. And also, Christina will give you links to know about a collection of free gifts that you can get that will kind of get you on the deeper dating path as well. So all of that will be available. And Christina, I know that you're talking about the Love Club, and I'm going to be sharing about it because I adore it. And I just think it's what the world needs.
Thank you so much. You are an OG in this space. I'm honored. Again, throughout this entire podcast, my eyes are getting a little bit teary because I feel so supportive in having you as a colleague and a mentor on this journey. And I'm so grateful to be able to share a stage with you. And for those who are joining us at the Wonderland Conference, if you do join the Love Club prior to October 30th, I will give you a free ticket to come and join us at the Wonderland Conference. And if you do join for the Deeper Dating Intensive, I'll give you a free ticket to join for the Wonderland Conference too. So any of those
that's fabulous. Thank you.
Let's do it. Let's give them a free ticket to come. And so we can all be together.
And those are $700 tickets.
They're $700 tickets. Yes.
Yeah.
I love to be with you in real life because, this is a joy to record these podcasts and share, but Ken and I are much better in real life.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you all for listening to this episode of Deepen with Christina. Do check the description of the podcast. It's going to link to both Ken Page's work, the Love Club, and all the events listed on We Deepen. We'd love to have you join us at the Wonderland Conference. And I will definitely bring Ken back on this podcast because he has such juicy nuggets and I could have dived deeper inside of that. Anytime. Thank you. And if you do enjoy this podcast, please do rate, like, subscribe, follow. It helps more people find it. Helps me continue to record it. And I love you all. Bye for now.